This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview.
Hello everyone and welcome back. We're speaking today again with Ben Turney from Kavango Resources. How are you doing, Ben, and what update do you have for us?
I'm very good, thanks, James. Again, it's sort of sweltering weather, but life is good. A lot of progress at Kavango. So, latest update this morning. We've just released the independent valuation report for Kanye Resources, which has put a market value of $8.6 million and a preferred value of $8 million on the entire projects. Now, that obviously works out at around about £7 million, which when you look at our market cap of about £9.5 million, which is where we're currently trading, what this really does for us is it underpins the value of where we are today. And that's the key point I want to get across, is that this valuation, I asked for this to be prepared on a sort of fairly conservative basis. This will help us with potential future negotiations with any partners, but also to give us just a clear understanding of, the money that we've invested into the projects together with Power in the past. Where do these projects stand? If we were to look to acquire a deal. Now, to conclude a deal. Now, one of the interesting things about the report is that particularly for the KCB, there have been quite a few transactions because the Copper Belt is such a hot exploration province. There have been quite a few transactions for us to benchmark against. So we're very confident in these numbers. We do think they're on the conservative side. And the key thing is that, of course, they don't take into account future exploration upside. So we're making a great deal of progress in the KCB, where we're getting towards being drill ready. And of course, we've recently drilled Ditto, and we have results coming out from the Ditto campaign in the not too distant future. So where I think in the past, the Power JV, it was excellent for the company. It really did serve a wonderful purpose for us, helped us get to where we are now. But it did also dilute the message a little bit. And now that we've got this 100% interest, once we've got the prospectus out, I think it's going to really supercharge our recovery as market conditions improve.
The report gives a valuation of the Kanye project based on both cost and a market valuation. Could you explain the two approaches and give investors an idea of how they should treat each one?
Right. So the valuation approach, the method that the independent valuer used, it requires that you use two valuation methods. Now, the cost valuation approach, that's obviously the most conservative because that shows how much we've actually put into the project. So that shows you if we were just simply to strip everything back to the money that's gone in, that's the value. Now, of course, in reality, that isn't the value, because what that doesn't reflect is the sort of the intangible value, which of course is the progress that you've made on the ground. So we've taken a lot of soil samples, we've flown airborne surveys, we've got a huge amount of data over both project areas in the KCB and at Ditto. And of course, we've recently drilled Ditto as well. So of course, we've advanced the projects. The market value takes a look at comparable transactions for similar license acreage. For the KCB, that was pretty straightforward, as I mentioned. There have been a lot of transactions in the belt, so there's pretty much a direct line that we could tap into. For Ditto, it's a bit different because, of course, in Botswana, there aren't any producing carbonatites, any producing rare earth projects. So what the independent valuer had to do there was to look internationally at similar projects to Ditto and use those as the benchmark. So basically, the market approach looks at other deals that have been completed on the market and uses those as a benchmark for coming up with a number.
And what criteria was used to come up with these comparable companies on which the market valuation is based?
Well, the KCB ones are pretty straightforward. I mean, the Copper Belt in Botswana is a very defined area. You have all of the prospecting licenses that are within those. So it's pretty much a like-for-like comparison. The mineralization style is well known. The controlling geological structures are all the same. So you're pretty much comparing apples with apples. It's a direct comparison. In terms of the comparisons for Ditto, that has required a little bit more judgment. So he's looked for projects that have given off similar geophysical signatures. So when we released the detailed drill rationale, we talked about some of the comparisons that we'd made that made us believe that there were carbonatites on the project. So he's looked for similar projects that give off sort of similar readings and have been explored in a similar method to the way that we are going about exploring our projects.
What was the original motivation behind having this report commissioned?
So that's a good question. So the original motivation, we were looking at using this as the basis for a direct IPO of Kanye. We've also been preparing a competent persons report alongside that. But of course, over the last year, market conditions have been very difficult. So, and this year as well, of course. So I think in terms of our plans on the IPO, I mean, it's certainly something that we're still looking at. We got fairly advanced down that project line. But what we've actually had done is we then sort of took the opportunity with the power deal now being concluded to have the report repurposed. So it's not now just looking at the IPO, it's looking at the value of the project. We are in talks with a number of other parties. So we're looking at some potential longer term strategic interest. We were very fortunate to go through Power's incubation process, but Power as a project generator and as an incubator model, there's so far that they take their projects before obviously they hand them over, and our projects have obviously now matured and developed to a stage that we're looking at sort of the next levels that we're looking to move up to. So the purpose now with this valuation report, this gives us a benchmark, it gives us a starting off place as of the 1st of May. But of course, since then we've made a lot more progress, and in particular as we move into drilling in the KCB, if we are then to make a discovery there, and this is such an important point for our shareholders to understand. If we do make a discovery in the KCB in particular, we've got 100% exposure to the upside of that discovery. So we would expect then obviously to update this report as we make more progress in the field.
You said that your 100% ownership of Kanye could be a real game changer for Kavango. What is the big upside potential that you see?
Well, it's making copper discoveries, particularly in the copper belt. I mean, these copper silver deposits are fairly large. Obviously, copper is over the next decade. The sort of the fundamental outlook for copper is immense. Stockpiles are currently very low. There hasn't been a huge amount of exploration over the last 10 years. So it's a bit of a perfect storm, really. So for us, we're in one of the world's most exciting copper provinces. We've released a map last Friday with the RNS, with the operational update, where we showed the discoveries and the projects in the eastern half of the belt in Botswana, and then over the border in Namibia to the west. We're sitting right in the middle, where we believe the trends continue through our ground, but where there's been this sand cover that has limited historic exploration. And there's another particular edge that we have on the Mamuno licenses, which we've kept to ourselves, but we're very excited about. And that is that the regional airborne surveys that were flown didn't cover the Mamuno licenses. Now that for us it's a dream situation, because our mapping on the ground already has revealed this Nguako Pan Dakar formational contact. So we've already identified that on the ground. And at some point we'll be flying our own airborne surveys over that little corner of Botswana that seems to have just been completely overlooked and missed. And we think that for us is a really exciting project alongside our licenses 36 and 82, where we've done a lot of our work. So, we think in particular with those three areas, each one of those could host a major discovery. So, if that turns out to be the case and we do make discoveries on all three, then yeah, it will, as we said, it will be a massive game changer for Kavango and Kavango shareholders, which of course, as of this deal, includes Power Metal Resources moving forward.
So what are the resources, speaking of time and money, that are needed to start getting value from Kanye?
Well, the honest answer is that's a bit of a piece of string question. How long is a piece of string? We've got now across the belt 5,500 square kilometres of prime exploration ground. Obviously, in an ideal world, we would have dozens of teams working on these projects. We would really go at them hammer and tongs. But obviously, we are a junior exploration company, and that means we have to be very smart about how we use our money and where we focus our efforts. This is part of the reason that obviously we've not rushed into drilling. And I think, I understand there have been some shareholders out there being a bit frustrated, saying, oh, well, why aren't you drilling? Why aren't you drilling? Thinking it's just a case of, we go and get the magic truth detector out, stick a few holes in the ground and, hey, presto, we've made a major copper discovery. Well, of course, it's not that easy. So we have to go through a very meticulous exploration process. So the mapping that we've completed, the airborne surveys, the soil geochem that we're taking, we're looking at doing some AMT work. We're using this Tremino tool. This is all building up the picture of the target areas that we have. Now, I mentioned that in Guaco Pan Dakar formation contact. That is the key leading indicator across the entire belt. So we're very much focusing our efforts around there. In terms of sort of how much time and resource will this take? Well, we've got 80% of our field teams work up in the copper belt. So our major exploration focus internally operational focus is in the copper belt. Of course, there's always room to do more. I mean, if we had more money available to us, we would have more teams on the ground and we would already be drilling. But for us, it's about taking a very sort of smart. We have to be very innovative. We have to be very clear in our thinking and very focused on where we target. But in terms of timelines, we're looking to start drilling, we hope, towards the end of this quarter. So we're hoping around about September time to be drill ready. But of course, that will all be driven by the results in the field. What I can say at the moment is that our guys on the ground are really sort of working through the gears now. I mean, we've made a lot of improvements to the company. We've done a lot of training. The groundwork we've put in has really paid off. So I'm hoping it will now be on a much more accelerated basis than it has been before. But what we do know is that when we do come to commit to put that drill bit into the ground, we are on the hunt for mineralization. This isn't going to be proof of concept or anything like that. This is going to be a hunt for copper silver deposits.
And so to finish off, Ben, what is your personal opinion on the upside for Kanye and Kavango?
Yeah, it's a question that it's difficult for me to answer as CEO. I'm obviously also a shareholder. I've got just under 2% of the company's stock, which I've bought myself in various placings and on the market. So I do feel like my interests are very much aligned with shareholders, and I understand why you asked that question. I think that the real upside for us now is underpinned by this Kanye transaction. I mean, I'm over the moon to have 100% of the KCB and Ditto projects. The valuation numbers that we've been given, I've got a great deal of confidence in. I've seen how those numbers have been constructed, and I think of where we stand today, that underpins our market cap, because if you take into account our KSZ assets and of course our LVR assets, what the market is telling us is that those are worth £2.5 million. Now, I know from all the information we put in the public domain and all the progress we've made across both of those project areas, the KSZ in particular, we are worth a lot more than we are today. And that's obviously before we have any success. Now, obviously, we need Mother Nature to be kind to us. We've got a lot of very prospective ground out there, and we're doing all we can to make a discovery. This isn't an easy business, but I have a huge amount of confidence in our team. With the improvements that we've made, the people that we've brought in, the replacements, the changes that we've made, I can see Kavango is in fighting fit shape. And I mean, over the last couple of weeks in particular, I've just noticed there's been a huge uptick in terms of the performance levels across the company, the engagement from everybody, the ideas that are flying around, the meetings that we've had have been really, really energized and energetic. It's been great to be a part of, and just to be able to step back for a moment and look at what we've built. Now, obviously, that's not reflected in the share price at the moment, so I know that enthusiasm isn't being shared by the wider market, but I do believe we are set up for success. So I see the upside coming from all this groundwork that we've done. We've done everything we can to reduce the risks on our project, and the next time we come out to drill in the KCB, we're going to be going for mineralization. In the KSZ, we're going to be going for these B conductors that we've announced. There's more work we need to do at Dittal before we start thinking about exactly where the drill bit will go. But we're very encouraged by what we've seen from the data there so far for future exploration. So I think we've got excellent chances of making discoveries across our projects. And in the KCB in particular, we've got license 082 up in the northeast of the belt, the LVR JV. We've got license 036, which is where we've done most of the work and have published most of the data in the Kanye JV. And then we've, of course, got that block of 4 Mamuno licenses up by the Namibian border that are on the other side of the border. And this is something we haven't actually even mentioned. To the west, we've got Rio Tinto, and to the north, we've got Sandfire directly adjacent to us. So we're very, very excited about that project area as well. So really looking forward to what the future brings. And yeah, let's hope that Mother Nature is kind to us and we can go out and make a number of major discoveries.
Well, thanks very much for speaking with us, Ben, and filling investors in on this important update. And thanks to you, the listener, for tuning in.
Thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.